And going back to Congress, there's some years you want to go back to school after the summer, and there's some years you just want the summer to keep going. I can imagine that this is a time where going back to Congress for someone in the minority is a little frustrating. Tell us about that.
It's hard to get out of bed in the morning and realize you're going to Washington in the minority, and you'll be there with Donald Trump and his changes from day to day. He changes his stories, he changes his perspective, he changes the facts, he changes his cabinet members, his staff. It's just it's a show. It's not a very good show, and they'll be doing things that'll change America. I think that Chris Wray's resigning rather than staying on, letting him be fired, is the first opportunity he has to have been an autocrat and to know that autocracy works, that his desires overrule the rule of law. And the rule of law is that Chris Wray had a 10-year term. Chris Wray resigned, or will resign, before the inauguration because Trump wants him to. So basically saying, you're the king, and I'm going to let you be the king and not require you to take the position of firing me and having whatever repercussions come from that.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're and the Pete Hegseth story, where Joni Ernst, the senator from Iowa, said she was not inclined to support Pete Hegseth, and then the bullying started, right? And then they said, well, we're going to primary you in Iowa, and the MAGA forces came out in earnest against Ernst. The fact that this is happening right now, tell us how typical that is or how atypical it is. I mean, I know that there are political repercussions for a lot of what goes on in Washington. It's the capital of politics. I don't think there's an apology necessary for it, but this kind of threatening that we're seeing now, and that Chris Wray felt, and I, like you, think that Chris Wray should have stayed on and let himself be fired so that everyone in the world could see what was going on more clearly. But what do you make of that, and how can that be navigated now?
I think Trump told Bob Woodward, and I think I don't know if it was in the book War or another one of his books on Trump, but he told him that fear was the major tool that should be used and can be used to get support. And he's big on fear. And that's what he did with Joni Ernst. He said, we'll come after you in a primary. And of course, now you don't just have the 280-pound orange gorilla come after you and endorse your opponent. You've got Elon, and Elon comes with $250 million to give your opponent. So it's a combination of the world's richest man funding your opponent, and right now, I guess, the most popular politician in America, although not by much. There's only 0.5%, and Kamala Harris would have been president.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been president if we had a better world and popular election.
Yeah, exactly. If we didn't have the Electoral College. So there were a few hurdles there, but you're right.
The Electoral College is the only college that Donald Trump's ever let his grades be shown.
Have you been workshopping that in the clubs around Memphis? Is that I like?
No, that just happened. I mean, they just come to me.
I like it. Yeah. I like it a lot. And we were talking about clown college just now too. So maybe all of it fits together in some way. Congressman, one of the other things that we've been talking about on the show a little bit is the fact that in your body, in the U.S. Congress now, we're seeing a change in committee ranking membership now, so that people who were in line to become the ranking member, which I should explain to the audience, and when you're in the minority, it is the highest ranking person on a committee from the minority party is called the ranking member, and the other person is the chairman or the chairwoman. So we're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. How good is that? A lot of people seem excited about it.
Well, I think it's good. I think this would be my 19th year, and it takes a long time to get in a position to where you can be a chairman. I'm still not in a position to where I can be a chairman of a full committee. I've been chairman of subcommittees in the past, but when you have to be there as long as I've been and still not really be kind of geared toward being a chairman because of the seniority system, that's not good, and it doesn't keep a lot of people staying there. That's why a lot of people retire. The Republicans have a limit. They've had some waivers this year, but they have limits on how long you can be a chairman. and it gives more people the opportunity to participate. In this case, what's happening in Washington, Jerry Nadler has been a longtime leader of the Judiciary Committee and a member of the Judiciary Committee for a long time, and the leader for maybe 6 years or 8 years or whatever. He assumed the chairmanship after Mr. Conyers left. And, Jerry had Jamie Raskin as a potential adversary. People look at the Judiciary Committee as being where the battles are going to be fought to give notice that democracy is at risk with this autocratic administration. And then it'll be a judiciary, not an oversight. Oversight looks at the administration and oversees what they're doing. And of course, the Republican chair, Comer, will not have a lot to oversee and criticize. And there's not that much the minority can do. They can do some things, but not much. Right. So Jamie's a wonderkind. He's a star. He's a very smart guy, college professor, very talented. And it was felt by some of the people in leadership that we needed our top person in that position. And he was able to secure enough votes to where Mr. Nadler withdrew. Now, in the other situations, Raul Grijalva, a wonderful man, a good liberal, good on the environment, and been chairman of the Environment and Committee, Natural Resources. He's been challenged by Jared Huffman and Congressperson from New Mexico, Ms. Stansbury, Melanie Stansbury. So they're challenging him, and he's had he's had a very bad cancer situation. I think it's lung cancer. He looked terrible when he came back. He missed a lot of session. He's lost a lot of weight, and he's got serious. So that's not so much the seniority system as it is health. And can he continue in that capacity? It was felt that he couldn't do that. And the same thing goes for David Scott, who's the chairman of Agriculture, who's a wonderful gentleman. And he's been very sick for a long time and has trouble getting around. And I've asked some people, they say it's pretty much staff driven because he's not capable of doing what he needs to as chairman. And so Jim Costa, an active member from Fresno, the agriculture capital of the world, or the garlic capital at least.
No, garlic is in Gilroy. Fresno is America's breadbasket, right?
Okay. Well, it's close. And so he's challenging him, and I think there's another person challenging as well. But and it may be Melanie. Melanie's looking at natural resources, and I think Grijalva asked her to do that, and I think he was upset. Jared Huffman came after him early on before he decided to give it up. But it's the Agriculture Committee, and there's Angie Craig is the other person looking at that. But I think Costa's going to have the votes, and that's not necessarily seniority. Again, it's health. So I think it's good to have turnover. It's good to have other people have an opportunity. But these situations, with the exception of Nadler, who is older, it's been health. And with Jerry, it's simply that Jamie Raskin, such an outstanding member.
Yeah. It's great that he's the one who's healthy now too, after all he's been through. And so we're talking about the health of some of the other members of Congress, and it's Jamie Raskin, whose health we're not talking about, which is also a nice thing. Congressman, I know that it happens across the hall, the confirmations of some of these Trump appointees, but I want to ask you about Robert Kennedy Jr. in particular, because you are somebody who admired his father and certainly his uncle, and I know that it inspired your political career. Jack Kennedy did, in many ways, and I also know that you were someone who, as a young person, suffered from polio, and as someone who's gotten older has also had to endure the ills of post polio, and then you have somebody like Bobby Kennedy Jr. talking about vaccines in the way he does, talking about changing the way water fluoridation, all of that. What do you think when you hear that? And do you think there's any optimism, people you speak to up there, that he might not get confirmed?
Well, you're right about my Kennedy background and the love I've had for the Kennedys. And in 1980, I supported Ted Kennedy. He was a delegate for him. And Bobby came to Memphis, and I got to know him, and we campaigned pretty active and action-filled 24 hours, and got to like Bobby. I've only seen him a few times since. He's always been very nice and pleasant and reached out. And I consider him a friend. And I've got other friends in the Kennedy family. But I have to cringe at what his attitude is about vaccinations. He called me one time and asked me, he was trying to get a hearing, which a member can request a hearing, a room for hearing, even though not a chairman or a ranking member. He was looking for a hearing on vaccinations, and I had a tough decision, but I called him. I said, Bobby, you know how much I think of your family, but having had polio and the Salk vaccine would have prevented me from having it. And it was there in my house. In fact, the Salk vaccine was in my house, and my father did not give me the shot for me. In fact, it wasn't in his protocol. He was giving shots to second graders, testing the Salk vaccine out in the spring of '54, and in the fall of '54, I got polio. I said, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I was just reading a story about one of his very close supporters. It starts with an S. I think it says Siri, but I'm not positive what his name is. Yeah. He's a lawyer who's made a lot of money out of fighting vaccines and fighting science. And he suggested that polio should come off the list of vaccines that is given to people. And I think he backpedaled a little bit. He said he thinks there should be a test run with placebos and the polio vaccine and see how they come out to make sure the polio vaccine, in fact, is effective, which would deny some children the polio vaccine. And unfortunately, while it's been wiped out almost everywhere because of the work of the Gates Foundation and the Rotary Clubs International, there's still some polio in Africa and a country or two and in Pakistan and or Afghanistan. And there was a case in New York not too long ago, just one case. It could come roaring back. But the vaccine is important. But for my father deciding that it was not within his protocol to give me the shot, I wouldn't have had polio. And Bobby Kennedy didn't have to go through that because he was younger than me. And he didn't go through the period that was a scourge in America and a fear of parents and of children getting polio, which ended at about 55 when the Salk vaccine had been tested in 54 and became available to everybody in 55. And Bobby Kennedy, I'm sure, got the shot. Bobby Kennedy didn't have polio, and Bobby Kennedy didn't have friends getting polio because of the vaccine. And to consider eliminating polio and other vaccines, I think is irresponsible, and you need somebody in charge of the Health and Human Services who is a physician, a scientist, someone with a background and respects history, respects science, and knows science. Bobby'd be good doing some kind of environmental work. Bobby'd be good doing being the advisor on grocery store products, but not on health care.
Grocery store products, which the incoming president says, well, he may be able to bring the prices down anymore. He said that's right. All he talked about for years, and now he's saying, well, not so fast.
And they say that it was all about the price of eggs, and yet a lot of those people allegedly concerned about the price of eggs were buying $75 Bibles and $250 Trump tennis shoes and paying money for all kind of Trump things. And Melania, God knows what they'll be selling things from her for.
Right. Well, she's not going to be around the White House, it seems, very much. So she's going to be able to do whatever she wants.
Her book is #1. Is that amazing? Her book is #1 bestseller, and you look at the authors that are 2, 3, and 4. Whew.
Well, I mean, I can't wait till her next book. If this one is doing so well and is so great and so well received, you know how that happens with so many people buying so many of the books. And you bring up something really great. I've been on the road, as you know, for a very long time covering the MAGA crowd, and there are. Just to paint the picture, when you go to one of his rallies, and I always say that many of the people are there for the tailgate, not for the game. They come to be outside and mingling with each other. And there are invariably between 20 and 50 stands selling Trump merchandise. And the people, like you just said, shelling out money for anything and everything. And then you stand with them and they say, I can't afford to go to the market anymore, right? But
and you saw what he just did, which was really revolting. Joe Biden was nice enough to shake his hand at the rededication of the Notre Dame Cathedral, and he used that picture that was taken in an ad for his fragrances and said even enemies can't resist the fragrance of fight, fight, fight cologne. What a jackass.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to find a lot of disagreement in this audience, Congressman. So before we let you go, it's the holiday season. We talk a lot about dark things coming with the Trump administration, all these nominees. People are pretty down. The ratings on traditionally progressive networks are down. People just are sticking their heads in the sand. They will take them out of the sand as
some people are sticking their heads in the sand, but then there was a difference on Mika and Scarborough. They went and they stuck their heads somewhere else.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. You got me on that one. Well done. Give this audience of the Mark Thompson Show, for which I am guest hosting this week, give them something about which to be optimistic. Is there as you go back to Washington for the beginning of next year, what's something that they can be optimistic about, that we can be optimistic about?
Well, they can be optimistic that a lot of what Trump says he'll do, he won't do. He said he would build a wall and Mexico would pay for it. And that didn't happen. And a lot of things he said he would do haven't occurred. So now he's already admitting he can't do much about grocery prices. That's a good thing, is a lot of it's bluster and BS to get elected, and just he doesn't know the truth. So that's somewhat better. And a lot of it's just going to be, I guess the real good news is that there will be an election in 2028.
Right.
And we just got to hold our noses and put our hands over our eyes to some extent, although we need to be awake and observant and critical and bringing attention as Congress people, attention on the issues to what's happening. But it's dreadful. And whether it's Trump in 28 or whether it's Vance running for re-election, because I'm not sure that Trump is going to make it to 2020. He's morbidly obese and does not take care of himself. And when he plays golf, I don't think he carries his clubs, and I don't think he walks in this hot, fast pace.
Okay. Well, we will take that he will not be able to follow through, and then I guess the Judiciary Committee will be one of those committees, the one on which you serve, that is going to be holding his administration to the fire at every turn. Is that safe to say?
Jamie will do a great job, and then we're going to have to pick a new chairman of government oversight, or ranking member. And I think that AOC is a candidate, but I think Jerry Connolly is going to end up winning. He's well liked and been a while. He's got cancer too, and a lot of disease going around among older Congress people. And but I think Jerry's going to get it. Nancy Pelosi apparently was helping him and making calls. She did not call me. She fell in Europe.
In Luxembourg. Yeah. Have you heard how she's doing? She's in Luxembourg. Is she doing okay?
Well, all I know is she fell, and it said it was a hard fall on marble steps. I don't want to take any hard falls on marble steps.
Yeah, no.
So I imagine she very well bruised well, and she could have broken a bone. Who knows? And she certainly could have had some other injuries to her hands, wrists, trying to help stop the fall. I certainly am not going to wear 4-inch heels when I walk down those stairs.
I was going to say, you spend enough time on marble steps that I don't see you putting on heels. We had somebody in the chat had asked me to ask a question to the congressman about the FDIC. Does Musk want to get rid of the FDIC? Is that something you've heard?
He goes right to it. Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what Musk wants to do. Musk wants to do whatever is good for Musk. Yeah. And he's an interesting character. I'm reading the book about that Isaacson wrote, and Isaacson wasn't very complimentary of me. He spoke to us at a Rubenstein sponsored program at the Library of Congress. He's a very strange individual, and he's doing a lot of good for Memphis, and that's good. So I guess I should hold my tongue to some extent.
Why don't you do that so you don't get primary? Well, you wouldn't get primaried, but
they can primary me. I'm safe.
I don't think you get primaried all the time. I don't think you're going to get a Musk primary opponent, is what I mean. All right, Congressman Steve Cohen, we really thank you for taking time out on a Friday. Wish you happy holidays. Good Friday the 13th. Stay off the marble steps and the high heels, and thanks for joining the Mark Thompson Show today.
Michael, it's sure been good to be with you.
All right, you did it.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.